Yeah, hi, Joshua P. Warren here. I'm in my office in Asheville, North Carolina, and I want to talk to you for several minutes about the wishing machine, or as some may call it, the radionic box. Of course, I'm the author of the Wishing Machine workbook, and when I wrote that workbook, I was kind of nervous because I knew that it worked for me, but I didn't know if it was going to work for other people. Necessarily. But when it came out, I mean, I think I got almost like 600 emails from people all over the world who said, this is amazing, this worked, and, thank you so much. And, I mean, it was very rewarding, and maybe about 100, 150 of those folks said, I want to get more advanced. I want like a physical wishing machine. I want a physical radionic box because I want to pursue this. And I've had a physical machine for many years, but I've never really known how to like hook people up with the physical machine. It's a weird phenomenon. You can't like go to Walmart and buy one of these things. It's strange, and I never just felt like the timing was right to try to help people get one of these. But then recently, I met a technician who is also a radionics enthusiast, and he started making these boxes and pretty much perfected it. And I started testing them. We started brainstorming, and here's what we came up with. And let me tell you, this thing has worked incredibly well for me and for everybody who has tested it. And I mean, this box I have used to increase my business and finances probably tenfold, 15-fold. It works so well that I feel confident we can, for an experiment here, try to sell these to people, hopefully like yourself, who know what we're trying to do here. Because radionics is all about that mind-environment relationship. It's about taking what you desire and sort of customizing it and magnifying it and specifying it so that it connects with the universe in a way that helps it manifest. It's kind of like magic meets technology. So let me tell you roughly how this works. There are many different ways you can use a radionics box, and there are many different types of devices. I believe this is the simplest radionics wishing machine that you can get. And I also believe that this, well, I don't know if it's the simplest, but it's pretty darn simple. But I do believe that it also is the simplest way to use it. Because when you get this thing, I'm going to send you some instructions and tell you how you should use it. But here's essentially how this thing works. This is a wooden box, and it has 9 knobs on the front. And these knobs are just like potentiometers, something like a dial for volume. You can just twist. It goes from 0 to 10. So you could go from 0 to 10 on each one of these 9 knobs. Now at the top of the box, we have an input plate, which is made of metal. And we have an output plate, and that's made of plastic. And here's essentially what you do. First off, you want to figure out what kind of problem you want to solve. And traditionally, these things have worked very well if you have financial problems, if you have relationship problems, if you have health problems. That's, what most people use these things for. So let's say we take a guy named Joe who wants to make money. Let's say he's broke, just as an example. So the first thing that Joe needs to do is to symbolize the concept of Joe being broke. So what he's going to do is take a piece of paper, and this is just one way you could do this. This is a piece of paper. You write on it, simply enough, Joe without money. and then you want to represent best you can the concept of Joe without money. So in this case, you have a paper that says Joe without money, and then you have his signature at the bottom, Joe, and then one of Joe's hairs that's just taped on there. It's kind of like voodoo, you know. It doesn't really matter what you do. You just want as much tangible, physical evidence as possible to represent Joe without money. Let's say he got fired. You know, you take your pink slip and you hook that on there as well. That's perfectly fine. You just want something that really represents Joe and Joe being fired. Then you fold this in half, and we're going to call this the sample. So this is the sample that represents Joe being fired. So next, you would lay this box down flat on a table. And on the input plate here, you would take this piece of paper that represents Joe being fired and whatever else you hook onto it, and you would lay it there on the input plate, right? So after you put it there, the idea is that there is a frequency that represents Joe without money. And we need to find that frequency. And we use the knobs on the box to find that frequency. Now again, each one of these 9 knobs goes from 0 to 10. Just twisting it. So this is when things get kind of weird. This is when it becomes kind of like a psychic instrument, a psychic tool. When this is on the input plate, you're going to use your body as a detector. And you take the finger of, let's say, your right hand, and you start stroking the output plate. And it feels like smooth plastic. And as you do that, you take your other hand, and I'm on a webcam, so I'm doing this kind of backward. You take your other hand, and you start slowly twisting this knob from 0 to 10. And there will come a point when you will feel a weird sensation here we call a stick. It's where all of a sudden your finger goes, you're going across and it's very smooth, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the heck was that? It feels like there's a kind of a gooey, sticky place in the middle of the plate. And that's when you know you have the frequency for the first knob. So let's pretend like it's 4, okay? So we're going to put that first knob at 4. Then you move on to your second knob, and you do the same thing. You're slowly turning this second knob here as you're stroking the output plate until you get a stick. Let's say this time it sticks at 5. And you continue doing this with each knob. And let's say the next knob sticks at 6, just for simplicity. Now, again, this would continue, but for the sake of this video, let's say knob number 1 sticks at 4, knob number 2 sticks at 5, and knob number 2 sticks at 6. Oh, excuse me, no, knob 1's at 4, knob 2's at 5, knob 3's at 6. You with me? Okay, so we will say that, okay, the frequency of Joe not having any money here is 4, 5, 6. But we want to make sure Joe has money. We want the opposite of that. So knob number 1 has 10 different settings, right? So we're going to say 4 on that knob was the setting of him not having money. We want the inverse of that. So you say 10 minus 4. That's 6. So we're going to reset that knob. And instead of it being on 4, we're going to put it on 6. The opposite, the inverse. Number 5 was the knob number 2 setting, right? So knob number 2 was set at 5. Well, if 5 is the number of him having no money, and 10 minus 5 equals 5, We're going to keep that one at 5, just where it is. We're not going to move it. And then we go on to knob number 3, and then the setting on knob number 3 was the number 6. Well, 10 minus 6 is 4. So we're going to twist that knob back to number 4. So you see 4, 5, 6 has turned into 6, 5, 4. Now, hopefully that made sense. All we're doing is stroking this plate, using our bodies as a feedback device here for the input that's coming in here, and turning these knobs at the same time to find a point when our body tells us that we have located the frequency for what we want to change. And then we actually represent that change by moving each one of these knobs to the inverse position. And once you do that, you just set this thing aside. You just put it away. You put it in a closet, you put it in a drawer, and you forget about it. And then the opposite of what you found happens. So that is to say, if you did this same experiment and you represented Joe without money and you went through that process, the outcome would be, well, Joe would get money. But you can get as specific as you want. Now, some people may see this and say, this makes no sense and this is just madness. Fine. But if you're one of those people who kind of gets how this works, then I think that you will enjoy this box. And when you decide to order one, we're going to put you in touch directly with the master technician who is making your box. So you can tell him precisely what the purpose of your box is, and if there are any specific customizations that need to be made for your particular purpose, he can do that. Also, keep in mind that when you decide that you want to take this step, you're going to be incorporating yourself and your body and your mind as part of it. There are limitations. We are all living within some physical limitations. So you can't get this and say, I want to fly like Superman. Well, that's not physically possible, so that's not going to happen. You have to use your logic and your mind and look at what is attainable, what is realistic, and understand that this device will help you achieve that. So we're only going to make this available for a limited period of time as an experiment to just kind of see what the feedback is. It's a very strange product, and I wouldn't even be taking this risk selling these if it did not work exceptionally well. So I hope that you will be really pleased, and if you're the type of person who gets this and thinks that you want to be, on that advanced level, studying the wishing machine and radionics, well then definitely this is for you. So thank you for watching, and I wish you much success.